Hello everyone, welcome to Zay's Artistry. Today I'm going to be starting my anatomy study. Not my show of anatomy, but my actual learning process of how I'm going to learn anatomy because I don't know it as well as I would like to, and here's how I'm going to get better. So for this practice, I'm going to start with the head, then I'm just going to go down to the rest of the body and learn how to draw the entire human body, human figure. And the idea of this process is to first start by studying, looking at references and things like that, and then want to build practices to build my visual library. So I'm going to be going through some techniques, some tips and stuff to just be able to do that. But without further ado, let's get started. So what I'm going to start right now is I'm going to start on eyes. Why eyes? Because they're part of the head, they're part of the top of the body, and I really like to draw. I wanted to be able to draw expressions better. That's one of my main focuses at the moment. So I'm going to, do that. That's why we have our Pinterest open today. Yes, this is my personal board of pins for Pinterest. I might make a different board for, my YouTube channel, so you guys can also look at some of the references that I'm looking at. But I just want to first look at this eye anatomy here. Well, okay, let's go for this one. Yeah, see just how simple that is. It just, boop, circular sphere. And that's the most important part, is that it is a spherical shape, the eye is. And then it does have the lens on it as well. It allows you to see light, so it's kind of just boop, and then boom, and then that's an eye. But then the only other part that makes it expressive is the eyelids. Yes, the eyelids, which are going to kill me eventually. It's the part that makes the eye expressive, and also the part I struggle on the most, because really, since this is the side profile, it would cut off like that, whoop down, whoop down. But it is, eyes always do look better when you portray them properly in form. I don't know what it is. Technically, I feel like everything looks better when you portray it properly in form, and then when you know how to mess it up properly too. It's such a beautiful thing. But yeah, so let's get started, shall we? So on this board, I'm gonna pick a random one. I want to pick a lighter one to start off with. Here we go. I feel like this one by, what's that, Cubrim, looks like. I just felt this one was very nice. I kind of like the way the eye shapes were going, how they drag downward. I was really liking that, so I'm just gonna get on doing. I'm going to just start. So per usual, I'm gonna start off with the sphere, and then I'm gonna place the lens. So you can tell that the lens is actually, ooh, you know what? I gotta draw this to scale. The lens is in the smaller part of the sphere, like this. Yep, there it is. Okay. So with the lens being in the smaller part, it is, no, because see, here's what I'm doing wrong right now, which I started doing wrong, which I'm gonna fix. But I started to just draw instead of looking at the reference, enjoying what's at the reference. And that's why a lot of people struggle when drawing something, is because they don't take time to step back and look at it. So we're gonna look at it. What I'm seeing right here is that the eye, it has a couple of lines. I like to call it, okay, it's a diagonal line here, and then a very acute another diagonal line. So it's 3 lines that I'm drawing, and then it's the cut, because I noticed that more than just the eyeball here, it's actually the little fleshy bits. I didn't draw that, so I'm going to just real quick do something to annotate that, because what connects the eyes, am I right? You gotta be able to show that as well. Now that I know the diamond cut, if you look for the irises, if we're looking at where the iris is, we know this diamond cut kind of goes below the middle part of the iris. So I'm actually going to enlarge my iris just a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay. And so where this diamond little cut is, we because it goes below this part, I want to actually make this right here, and then I'm going to whoop, whoop, draw that just as a reference. So now that I know, skin folds right there, and go up, and just cut. I actually see it is touching the sphere. Once it gets here, it's gonna start touching it. So just do something like that and just take it over. And now we can start on the actual part where the iris is. And that doesn't start until the diamond goes right there. And from here, we just go up. Let's see, yeah, that's diagonal. It goes up until about right here. And then it goes down, immediately curved. And since it stops, let's say this is halfway the eye here, it stops below halfway because I noticed that I'm dragging the mouse downward. And then here's, let's say, here's where the third one starts. So I drag it down like that. You know what? I actually think this bend is a little flatter than what I'm making it. And this one can be a little sharper just to exaggerate that form. Okay, so now we looking at the bottom of the eye. This one relatively goes straight. For the form, it's just that since it is a 3D shape, we also just have to show that depth as well. This one goes down diagonal because you can see more of that eye there. So I'm actually going to start it from this side because I feel just a little more comfortable doing that. And then building it up to that cut. Okay, so I dropped it down a little too low. Yep, there you go. And now we just focus on making what's 3D. Kind of like the way it is from when I dropped the cut down too low, so I'm going to keep that there. The only thing 3D here just shows form above the eye like so. And alrighty. That's not bad. Then I'm going to just okay, because this is where this ends. You gotta draw the rest of the skin around the eye. That's an important part, getting that skin in there. Here, let me zoom in a little bit just so y'all can better see. What I'm working on here. Alrighty. There you go. And let me go, I just have a pen. I do have my inking pens actually really close to me as well. Okay, so I got my inking pens. And I'm not actually really good at inking. Yeah, I'm not really trying to be professional here. I'm just trying to outline it too. I'll just use a regular pen. But yeah. Just want a simple outline just to see the final product of what I drew. Kind of cleaner. I really need to start using my study of lines that I did a while ago. With this, I'll just do some basic. Okay, and with the iris is the. You know what I'm just now noticing? I didn't cut the iris properly. If you look, their eye actually goes down to here. There, it goes down to this top part. It cuts it just so slightly, which means I put too much of the actual eye in there. That's it. It's an interesting thing. I actually did not notice that. And I think the distance here actually is more space on this underside of the eye than I put on that side. That's a little disappointing. Okay, let me grab my erasers real quick. I gotta re-knead this one. I haven't touched my kneaded eraser for about like a week or so. It's actually pretty good. You know, I'm surprised this one is pretty good. I've had it for about 4 years now, I think. Yeah, around there. And like, well, no, then again, my other one did take 8 years to dry out. Take about 8 years to dry out. Okay, so that's the drawing. Am I liking it so far? I feel like it can be better. I do feel like it can be better. I want that to be skinnier. Wait, okay. I'm just gonna speed this up real quick until I can just get on to the next one. So I'll see y'all when I get back. All right, I want to come back in just for a little bit, just to talk about this. When I was inking this drawing, I did notice that right around where the iris is, my laptop is dying. Right around where the iris is on this inside part, right here, that I didn't actually draw the little separation line. Gotta mess up the setup real quick. Hold on, give me just a second. But yeah, so okay, there we go. So I did not draw the separation. If you look over here, see the like little gloss, and you can tell because it's a darker pink to the lighter tannish pinkish color. That's more so like a browner pink, but a pinker brown, and then over to this white that's reflected off. Anyways, you can just tell it's 2 different colors. So the fleshy part, that's where I do the extra stuff. But yeah, that. Anyways, I'm gonna go finish up doing what I wanted to do, and then I'll be back. You know what? I have to come back again because I also realized I didn't do something else as well. The top eyelid has a fold because when it goes into the eye socket of the skull, which I'm going to talk about in another video, I just drew the skull a couple times before, so I do know this, that the eyeball is actually inside the skull, and above that is a pocket. So the eyelid gets cut off by the pocket sometimes. So it's actually right here on this. I need to draw that. Anyways, I'll be back. Hey. Bless me again. What? Alrighty, guys. Oh shoot. Alrighty, guys. So I'm back. So with this, I didn't actually ink properly. Not because there's any technique I should have used. I didn't ink properly because I didn't plan how I was gonna ink before I did it. I just did it, which means I doodled instead of drawing, because that's the difference. Is doodling is just drawing anything random, and drawing is knowing what you're gonna draw. Also with this one, with this series, I want to draw both eyes, but I only drew the left eye. So, well, technically I drew their right eye, but you know, you get it. I'll get into it. So here's my overall evaluation of this one. Because of things like this smaller details, like this line fold in the eye here, that I didn't capture, I didn't even try to capture. Overall, you can tell it's an eye. Even though I did a little Pokemon kind of iris, and my light keeps cutting off. What is up with this? Hello? But anyways, even though there's this little Pokemon thing and the iris here, but that I did, you can tell it's an eye. It's I didn't add any eyelashes actually, even though these lines look like eyelashes or not. I should have added some eyelashes. Did forget about that. I feel like this is too deep. Where this pink of this eye is supposed to go, it's too deep. Because you see how like less of space this one takes up, and it's on a completely wrong angle. Because mine is on a plane angle like this, but the way the actual, if you don't stop cutting off, you know what? I'm just gonna do this one. Just gonna go with that for now. There we go, because that keeps cutting off, and that is bothering me. I don't know why it's doing that. I gotta figure that out. But yeah, so like I was saying, so doing that eye right there keeps yeah, my angle, and then this is the actual angle it's on, kind of something like this. You can see, because it encompasses a curve more, and then the rest of the eye goes around that, like up that's how the eye actually is, but I didn't detail that properly. I didn't, you know, actually try to put as much attention to detail as I should have while studying this. As for sizing, this is honestly so weird. This is like really weird. Anyways, as attention to size-wise, the iris, I'd say I drew too large for the way the frame is. The specular eye part right here, I actually kind of like that sizing. I already talked about the difference between how that should be. Then I'd say it's decent overall. It's not too bad. Because I gotta remember that this black part right here is also the white of the eye, even though I shaded it black, because, you know, who does that? But, yeah, so I give it a passing grade. It's okay. But that's everything in life, you know? Everything's not gonna be always how you want it to be. It's just, how can I make this better, more like I want it to be? Actually, I'm really liking this eye by, what's that? Oh, by Kroger & Co. Kroger got me. They really got me. But I like that eye. I would like to make a band. I like the way they did that. Hold on. Let me fiddle with that real quick. What I'm seeing is it's on a diagonal, and then because the way the eyeliner goes up into the eye, you can tell the curve of the eye, like that, the liner. Don't be afraid to just do it. There we go. And then, even though I messed it up, I can fix it by doing that or something like that. Let's actually really look at this. It goes down in like 2 sections. So from here is the triangle. It's a very, very steep triangle. Just shoot, boop. That much of a bend, and then from here is to turn into the at. That gives the eye. And right, just literally right below that is where the inside part of the eye goes out. That starts the sphere. Because the sphere is right here, you can tell that that part of the eye, this part right here of the iris is getting cut off, that top part. This diagonal piece, and then just visualizing it. And you know what? I'm actually doing this wrong right now. But how am I doing it wrong? Because I knew it. I'm doing it wrong because I'm not drawing it like it's on a sphere. I'm drawing it like it is a sphere. There we go. There we go. Yep, that's more correct. And then do that same for this top iris part. And I'll talk a little bit more about that after I finish this and sharpen my pencil. Then it has that highlight right there. That doesn't take up nearly as much as that of the eye. That's okay. And then it goes all the way through. The eyeliner goes just straight down, kind of almost. Back to just lining up with that. And you can tell the cut. See how much more space of the actual pink of the eye that you can see right here? That, wow. And you can actually tell like the pink, the part of the pink of the eye that's attached to the eye and that's attached to the skin, because it's a clear separation line between where it bends at too. That's a really nice touch to this. Especially it's really cool to learn. Alrighty. And then that dip and divot that just goes. Okay, yeah, actually should have done it like that. It's gonna keep cutting off, man. That's gonna bother, but it's gonna be okay. So you go through and around and around. Boom. And you can tell that the way the eye goes, it goes down like so. Now for this part, I feel like I'm gonna mess up. You know what, actually? I feel like that's better for the triangle, but so we're gonna go up because it does go up along the curve. This is the pocket, so it completes and follows a whole new space. And that's what it is. And then bam. I feel like maybe I actually really want to learn the muscles around the eye a bit more. I guess I should do that. Start studying that instead of, that'll be my next thing. But this one is just so much better than the other one. And then we're going to start putting in the eyelashes. Wow. Okay, and then start connecting them to the thing that makes them triangular. This is the technique I learned from Mark Curley back in the day. That eyelashes should be a triangle. You know, you draw it first one, then draw a triangle. I'm pretty sure. What do you do that on? There's some video way back in my youth. I think I watched it in like 4th grade. And to think I've been drawing for like so young, but I didn't take it serious enough to get good. It's like, so a little disappointing, I can't lie. But that's what I'm here now for. To do what I want to do, you know? Just to have fun with it and explore. But yeah, that's the eye. Let me just shade that in real quick. Okay, and then so for shading wise, this is not white, that's actually gray, kinda. And then same for this one. It's just as you get closer to that line, make it just slightly darker. just to create that space. And then this line right here that follows that makeup line is black. Or at least a little really darker, too black. It just wants to be there. And yeah, it's a little bit of shading right here for that, because what I'm seeing is this the upper eyelid is creating a shadow. It's creating a light shadow. Making the eye look kind of like that, and then there's actually a little bit of a shadow here as well. Now, how do you tell the difference between that? That's the form of the shadow. I need to make that section just a little darker, because you can tell the difference between this part because of the coloration of how it's actually pink. But since I'm doing this black and white instead of using the color, I'm making that too dark actually. I should have just did that, but yeah. And then boom, gradient that out. So you can't really see it. And then this one, since this is actually not white as well, this is a pink color. Shade that ever so lightly. My goodness, and yeah, I'm liking that. And then darken this line here. Boom. Alrighty. Now let's compare this to this first one here. So for the iris, I'd say the highlight placement, I know I got that one wrong. Kind of, but that's simply because I'm drawing so small compared to the size of it, how to enlarge it. But when you look at this purely from the perspective of that eye, they look so close together. They look so similar. It looks so good. I'm really actually kind of proud of this one. And then comparing these two, you see how flat this eye looks compared to this eye. You know, I feel like that's because I didn't do the shading. You see, I did that shading around the iris. I didn't do that shading. I didn't do anything to actually detail the difference between them except for lines. And that's why that's flat. Also, another difference between these two, which makes this eye pop way more than this first eye that I drew. Let me zoom back out here. Than this first eye that I drew, is because what I was talking about earlier is the iris thing here. Let me do this on a pen. Is that if this is a sphere, right? And we know that this form wraps and this form bends into all types of ways. What I did is just do a flat circle on it, which is, instead of making it bend to the surface here, let me zoom in on that one. Okay, let me just move my laptop over as I zoom in. I'll just move back a little. Okay, there you go. But as I zoom over, that's not making these surfaces the same. If I were to just draw the circle on it, this is instead just adding another surface on it. So it's kind of like if you wanted to make that a 3D thing shaped like that, it's just kind of throwing a cylinder on top of it instead of making them the same. But instead, what I did for the second eye here with the iris, which is why it really changes it, even though that's kind of more like a dumpling than a sphere, is that I used the circle and bent it kind of. There we go, yep. I bent it to the form of the sphere. So instead of being placed on top of it, it is actually a part of it. And that's what makes it different. That's what makes this one 3D and look kind of cool. And if you stare at it deep enough, it kind of looks funny long enough. But that's a part that I like about this one. Also, my use of shading is way better because I actually shaded, and I didn't just use, gotta zoom out now, but I didn't just use black and white. I used different colors and different things of the gradient scale, which makes it 100 times better because that adds more values and more differences. Kind of even like let me just, maybe I should have done the basics of drawing first before I did this, but whatever. Anyways, because you see how like closer to there, yeah. Anyways, you see how closer to the darker blue this is, and then as it gets closer to the lighter part. But it's like if we give each part numeric value, let's give it like this. It gives 1, 2, 3. You can, it's way more than 1, 2, and 3 in there, but just for example. And then if we give this other one value, it's just this. This is 1 and 2. So this 3, quote unquote, that third area just gives way more of space. It gives way more punch to it, making it way better than these two because it's a wider range of variance. And also, it's the attention to detail on this one. How I tried so close to actually emulate what I was seeing first. I looked at it and only tried to draw what I see. I didn't try to get into my mind. But now let's stop glazing myself. Let's talk about what's bad about this. If you look at this eye part here, I drew 2 lines to connect. But when you look to go into it, this line disappears. It goes straight into this part over here. I'm gonna have to mess it up to learn, but it just goes straight into there. So it would have been better for me to draw it like that, as just one line, and then they go out, and then they separate. 2, even just now, I messed up because they separate right here, and I didn't look at that. And yeah, and that all the is all the difference. And also on this part right here, this is purely shading. It's not part of the skin, but when you look up over here, the skin actually goes up a little bit. There's a little darker area right here that separates the eyeball from the skin. I didn't do, so I should have shaded it up just a little bit right here to show, hey, that little spigot is not actually touching the eye, so it's allowing the eye to move around freely. And then this lighter layer right here, where I do this line, it's not shading. One thing I did mess up on, though, horrendously, is the makeup line. This one's way too far out. It should probably actually only go to here, right around here. And it should go upwards a little more. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm noticing, what I tried to do is I didn't follow the form of the eye for this one. Let me zoom in a little more. I did not follow the form of this eye as this one does. This one actually curves with the shape of the face. Here, I did not try to make a shape of the face. It's perfectly flat. And then I just curved it up, thinking that would be okay. But I should have instead, if I use the eyelid like this, since the eyelid goes down, the mascara has to bend with the way her eye is. So it would have been more something like this. So, or whatever. But you know, something that's more uniform to the way her face actually bends and actually changes. Wow, this one study just made me so much better, and I only studied 2 eyes. I'm probably gonna study a few more in a later video. I'm definitely gonna do this one again. I'll just call this the first eye study. Well, the practice. Well, this is actually more the study, and then practice, study, whatever, doesn't matter. But yeah, so far I'd say that's the two things. I feel like there's other things I've done wrong as well with this one. Oh, the space between right here, the space right here between the eye and like the upper eyelid, that should probably actually be around here. Because if you notice, this line is only at the end of the eyelashes, and mine is like touching the middle of these eyelashes. Anything else? No. Yeah. You know, that's all I can notice. If you guys notice anything else that, you know, that I've done wrong, or anything like your own art like that, just point it out in the comments below. You know, let me know. But that's everything for this first art study. I'm gonna go back, do some more, draw some more things, and just have fun with it, because that's what it's all about. Don't do anything that you really don't need to do, that you don't want to do, kind of. Don't do anything that you don't want to do. Not like that, because some things you need to do, even if you don't want to do them. But don't force yourself to do everything you don't want to do, you know. Just love what you do, kind of. It's such a weird thing to say, love what you do. But yeah, anyways, this is Zay's artistry. I'm drawing the world one step at a time. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.